Today we're going to review this G-Wagon.
G-Wagon?
G-Wagon.
G-Wagon.
All the housewives pulling up. This is Justin.
I'm Aaron.
And this is Husman Bros. And before we go too much further, please subscribe for more great content like this. And today we are talking about Cousin Bruce's G-Wagon.
Not just any G-Wagon, AMG G-Wagon.
This thing is a monster. If you
Absolutely.
can't tell from the thumbnails, this thing is killer. So let's talk about some of the features of this amazing 2022 AMG G-Wagon.
I think we got to start with the cosmetic. The look of this thing, matte black paint. Beautiful.
Great. This isn't a wrap. Now it is wrap for protection, but it came factory matte.
It's got some flake in it here. I mean, I see some sheen in this black, so it looks really, really cool.
One of the reasons Bruce is such a good friend of mine is because he loves bonkers cars just like I do, and this one is bonkers on a whole different level. 570 something horsepower on this car, stock from the factory, side exit pipes, all the good stuff a Mercedes has. Let's get into it.
Of course, we need to start with the front, and the front of the G-Wagon is amazing like the rest of the car. I love the G-Wagon style. It is built like a tank, so it's got this really aggressive front grille, Mercedes symbol as big as my hand, and beautiful LED headlights here as well. Love the built-in bull bar right here, and even some more grille down here, but I really like the front end and how aggressive this is, and it just sets the tone for the whole vehicle.
I also like this part of the front end. These are great. I think these are just so old school, they're super cool, and I'm pretty sure they act a lot in the same way as the sight guards on a Bronco, that you know where your wheels are. Now let's talk about what's under the hood. So this one is a 4-liter twin turbo V8 putting out 577 horsepower and over 600 torques. This is a lot of grunt.
625 foot-pounds of torque in this beast.
Yes, this thing is an incredible monster. Now this isn't the biggest engine you can get in this car.
No.
There is a G65.
That is a V12, but at this point those have been discontinued.
Right.
No longer making the V12s.
So that motor goes 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds in this giant slab of metal.
Yeah.
Backed by a 9-speed transmission, so you're always in the right gear.
Now the upside is the G-Wagon is a classic body style Mercedes has been making for a number of years, and so there have been manual transmissions, although there may not be any anymore. There are manual transmissions out there in the G-Wagon, although they're going to be rare. 5% or less of the G-Wagons ever produced have a manual transmission, so good luck if that's what you're into. Moving back on the side of the car, you got the wide body flares above the 22-inch wheels. Great looking black wheel. Love the center cap lug cover here as well.
Does 22-inch mean that they're dubs?
I suppose it does. I think we're past that. I don't know if that's what they say these days,
Is that a thing anymore
old
the
man.
kids say?
I don't think so.
I don't know. So let's talk about the inside of this car.
All right, before we get in the inside, I just want to point out this door right here. Now, this is a heavy vehicle, which makes it 0 to 60 time really impressive. But listen to the sound of this door close. That is a solid door. This thing is like a Yeti cooler. It is airtight. You can probably keep a bag of ice in here for 2 or 3 days before it melts.
Now, this is a Mercedes, so it's all luxury and fine inside. Soft touch leather everywhere you can touch, and then all of this metal trim that just is beautiful, these knurled knobs, a lot of fingerprint magnet stuff going on along here. Really, really fancy, especially for a big truck like this with the digital gauges. Like most other modern cars, this is fairly well adjustable to whatever you want to see on the gauge. It's got a giant display for your Apple Music. It's got these beautiful quilted seats here, and it carries through into the doorway. This is a very expensive Mercedes, so even though it's very, very trucky, it's still very much luxury. This has also a Burmeister stereo system, and if you look at this, just follow through the beauty of these speaker grills on the doors and on the dash. Everything just looks perfect. Now, one of the things that we can't show you, and I wish that you could experience, are the robot bolsters. So this has 3 different settings of active bolsters that actually grab you as you're going around corners. It feels like you're being groped by a robot. Now let's head to the back of the truck. We'll drive this in a second so you can get impressions, but let's head to the back and take a look there.
The one thing this car is great for is the sound. When Bruce pulled up, you could hear him coming, and it's because of this side exhaust right here. It has an exhaust button, which is really cool, but this side exhaust sounds fantastic. And in fact, Bruce shared with us that once he saw the side exhaust, it was game over. He knew he was getting this truck. So what else do you have, Justin?
Well, one, I just want to point out again, the slab sides and the beauty of this car. Now, this car itself is interesting in that mostly these sell for over sticker price. So when Bruce went to go buy this car, he was looking at a brand new one, and they were asking $75,000 over sticker price.
Is that because of the tax advantage? I hear you can get these for free at the end of the year.
I don't quite understand that. Go find a YouTube channel that talks about taxes, but it's because they're really popular cars.
Yeah.
He was looking at a one-year-old version that was 35 over sticker,
wow.
And this one, he paid $5,000 above the original sticker price for this car, which is a deal. Right, yeah. Exactly. Now come around back here. When we talk about the beauty in cars, we look for little contrasts, and the flat paint with the glossy badges really does it all for me here. We see the gloss here in the middle of the spare tire cover, and of course, most people want to blur out license plates, but we're not going to blur out Bruce's license plate because we have a big Australian fan base. And so Bruce always has the best license plates. In fact, he's found a good license plate for our Cayenne Turbo S that we may put on it. But this car is just a giant slab of fast. If we come around back here, plenty of storage. Of course, your ski bag. Now, did you notice how slowly that door opened? It's got a soft open on it. And again, it follows through with the luxury, all the quilting. This is just a really, really nice car. Fold the seats down, obviously. I don't know that you're going to take this thing camping and off-roading, but it certainly has the space to do so.
Now, I have seen an Overland G-Wagon. Not many. I did see one at the Overland convention that we went to.
Well, we're going to take Bruce luxury off-roading here soon enough, so we'll find out how well it does.
See who can race up the mountain the fastest?
We'll see. We got lots of power.
Yeah.
So let's take it for a drive.
Okay, twist my arm. Let's do it.
You want to drive it?
Yeah.
Or you can drive it. I've driven this before.
Okay. Now, I'm going to be honest. The Cayenne Turbo S, it's fast, it's cool, but it's a lowercase G. Okay? Once you get the money, you get the $100 bills, y'all, you're a big G. Let's go for a drive now. Let's start it up. All right, so I'm gonna take a test drive of the G-Wagon. I gotta say, this is my very first time to ever be inside of a G-Wagon. I've seen plenty of them, never sat in one. This is probably my first Mercedes to drive, I think, since back in high school when I drove my dad's 190E. So this is obviously dramatically different, although looking at it, has a lot of the same Mercedes qualities that you've come to know. But this is, of course, the AMG G-Wagon, and as soon as I can figure out how to take it out of park, then we will get moving. There we go, we are in drive. So we're in the G-Wagon now. We're headed out for a little test drive. We're gonna tell you a little bit about what I feel in driving this car. We haven't even left the parking lot yet. And so, of course, the first thing that I've really got a feel for is the steering wheel, which feels awesome. It's not perfectly round. It's got flat parts on the sides and on the bottom, so it feels very sporty. It's got the Alcantara in the center on the sides, but then the smooth leather on top. It's a really good feel for the steering wheel. Of course, I mean, like a cockpit, you got all of your controls right here in front of you. Your paddles on either side of the wheel. Your shift lever right here on the right. Now this is actually very familiar because I've driven a Tesla before. It's actually the same shift lever as is in a Tesla, and that is because Tesla knows where to buy their parts, buy them from Mercedes. So they do source their shifters from Mercedes. I've got it in the Sport Plus mode right now, which means that the exhaust is really growling and it sounds great. And wow, as I make that turn, the bolster is squeezing me. So it's giving me a little bit of tightness and holding me in the seat as I make the turn. I'm not going 60 around this turn, so probably don't need it, but it is comforting, I gotta say. Oh, and the more you get into the gas, the harder it squeezes. That's cool, I like that. Very comfortable seats. I would expect nothing less from Mercedes. Great view over the dashboard, over the hood. This, of course, is, you know, the G-Wagon, all blocky. So when it drops off, you know it's over. That's really interesting. I've never driven in a car that squeezes you like that. Yeah, whatever way you turn, it's squeezing you. So here we have a digital dash. There's no gauges here, just a few levers for the air conditioning, and then we've got the clock in the middle. Of course, Mercedes is not just going to put any clock in here. This is an IWC clock. Very cool. I love my watches. I'd like to have an IWC someday, so maybe I'll just get a G-Wagon instead. So I'm in the Sport Plus mode, give it a little gas. Very responsive, very quick. Probably quicker than I need to be going in somebody else's car, but don't tell Bruce. Now, the G-Wagon is a big car. This one is very fast, and so if you're gonna have a lot of weight and a lot of power, you're gonna need some really good handling. Of course, the Mercedes is no slouch when it comes to handling. The Mercedes I've driven in the past have always had very tight steering, and you could just tell the way it drives that it's a high quality build, and this one is no exception. Of course, it's an off-road vehicle, so they had to get the suspension right, but it handles very well. It's very smooth. The steering is not extra tight, which is great. Obviously, that's something you really want more in a sports car, but it feels really solid. The steering doesn't feel soft, but it's also not very tight, which is pretty understandable. You don't need tight steering. You need that in a sports car, but this one has a nice middle ground, high quality. I feel fully in control. It handles really well. It may feel even better handling just because of the way the seat grabs you, so you're not moving around as you're taking turns real hard. Of course, this has air suspension on it, so it is going to be adaptable as you're driving, as you're going around turns, and you can tell what a quality ride this is. All right, I'm getting an error now. It says the traffic sign assist is inoperable. I'm not exactly sure what traffic sign assist is, so I'm not going to worry about that. But I'm just really enjoying this drive, especially the sound of this motor. This has the V8 bi-turbo engine in it, and that boasts a 577 horsepower with 625 foot-pounds of torque. This thing is a beast. Love it. Brakes are nice. It's got a good feel to the pedal, which is really important in a big vehicle like this, especially one with so much horsepower. You need some really good stopping power. It's not going to be the same level of braking, obviously, as a 911 would be, but Mercedes knows what they're doing. They know how to make it go. They know how to make it stop. The brakes feel great as you come to a stop. Against my better judgment, I have shifted into comfort mode. So this thing is built for speed and comfort. It is Mercedes. That's really where Mercedes came from. They're not truly known as an off-road vehicle company. Not that they can't, it's just not what their history is. So I've got it in comfort mode now, and I'm still getting some errors here that I'm not quite sure about. When I've got it in comfort mode, I'm still getting the bolster support. I'm still getting squeezed here. It's actually pacing in and out, so it's gonna be responsive to your gas pedal and your steering. So the more smooth you are with the gas and the steering, probably the more consistent that it is gonna be with the bolsters. This level of G-Wagon, this far into development, it's got lots of bells and whistles, and eventually those things will break down on you. I can't imagine Bruce is gonna own it long enough for it to break down, but if it's a concern for you, that is something you wanna think about. Just driving this around for a little bit, one thing that is a little bit off-putting is all of the different errors that are coming up. Now, it's only really been a couple, but I've got traffic sign assist inoperative on the heads-up display here, and I don't know what that means. Not knowing this car, I don't even know how to exit out of that pop-up. And then as I'm coming to stops from time to time, I'm getting big red errors. I'm getting a display of the vehicle saying that I need to check for objects nearby, and there's nothing anywhere near me. So I'm not sure what those are, whether they're calibrations, there's just new bugs that need to be worked out. But cars are so technology heavy these days, and anybody who's worked with a new computer at work knows that new technology is going to have bugs and going to have little errors that come up until you get it all sorted out. So it's just one of the things that in a new car, you're gonna have to get sorted out, especially when you got a vehicle as technologically advanced as this G-Wagon, and this is full of goodies. The interior does look very cool. We've got our off-road modes right here, so you can set your suspension up in the different ways that you need it. And I do like that we do have some levers here. I'm not a big touchscreen guy. I like to just be able to push the buttons. The touchscreens I have challenges with, especially in some of the bumpier vehicles that I drive, just trying to get to the right buttons. But of course, the interior is very well appointed. It is a Mercedes, and everything, every inch of it really looks great. It really looks cool. The Germans know how to build things, and they know how to put them together in a way that is going to be aesthetically pleasing, and they absolutely succeeded with flying colors on this one. But one of the challenges that you might run up against if you like to wear polarized sunglasses is with all of the digital display, you could have some challenges seeing the screens if you're wearing polarized sunglasses. So keep that in mind and either fix your eyewear or make sure you get the vehicle you can actually see. These are my initial thoughts about the G-Wagon on my first test drive.
So you made it.
Yep, color me impressed. This thing is amazing.
It's a monster, isn't it?
Someday I may even own one. So watch, subscribe, leave some comments below so I can get a little bit closer.
If you have a car you want us to review, come on out.